good morning, and good to see you both.
Good to see you guys.
All right, so we thought we would start today by, first of all, making sure to let you know I will be away next week. So we were starting to talk about going every other week. You want to skip a week and then kind of make a decision?
Sure. That sounds fun.
Okay. So why don't you give us a big idea where you're going in the next 2 weeks and kind of maybe anything you'd like some targeted advice. And I know Jen followed up with you on an email with some advice for your second language learner.
Yes, that'll be helpful.
Okay, good. So go ahead, and I'll let you guys start.
We're finishing the novel, and I'm getting feedback here.
Here, I'll mute me. Go ahead. It's me. Go ahead.
Okay. Oh, okay. Anyway, we're finishing the novel, and so we'll finish it this week, and then the kids will have the assessment. And so I want to do the brown bag, but I'll probably have to adapt it. I'll tell you how I did the brown bag exam with the honors kids. So for the honors sections, I had many different stories. So, well, they knew that they were tested over like 3 or 4 stories they had to know. And so I made sure that each student in the group, when they were finally assigned to the group, so they had a different story because I wanted them to think about each story, actually. But I don't know how well that'll work with the inclusion class. So basically, each student, got their item in the bag, and they wrote themselves, and then they had to share it in their group, but they didn't have the same story, so they really had to think about all that. Now, the way it's set up is we have 4 chapters. So I thought that we could at least have maybe 2 students in a group of 4 have the same chapter, and then maybe 2 have a different chapter, unless that's too much. I don't know.
I think it's a good idea. The only caution I have is one of the things I love about the brown bag is when they go back to find evidence in the text, which is really, really important with the new standard saying you've got to provide evidence, that constantly they're able to shout out and help each other.
Right.
So I might actually do a jigsaw where they're all together for so I'm going to use you and TJ have chapter 1 and 2, and Jen and I have chapter 3 and 4.
Okay.
And we're together for the first 2 steps of the brown bag.
Okay.
And then we jigsaw and switch, and we're with other people who had the same 2 chapters, and we go back to find evidence in the text.
Okay, so we're make sure I see it. We're together. We each have a different chapter. We're helping each other out.
No, you guys have chapter 1 and 2. Jen and I have chapter 3 and 4.
Okay. And then how does the jigsaw work again?
And then whenever we get to the 3rd box in the brown bag where we're finding evidence in the text, you guys would join another group that had chapter 1 and 2, so you're looking at the text together, so that it's not too overwhelming when it gets to finding evidence in the text. It's just a thought.
Yeah, no, I thought it would be too much, because some of the first chapters are really long, so it might even be better if we say you even have pages 1 to whatever, too.
Yeah,
as long
as perfect.
I feel like there's, and limit that, because otherwise.
And it allows me, so you guys would be A, and Jen and I would be B, and we would start together, and then after step 1, we've looked in our bag. Step 2, they would give us ideas from our chapter, so you're forcing the other kids to think about our chapter, where there'd be evidence about, and then we would split, and the A's would go here and the B's would go here, and this half of the room could then be helping each other find evidence in the text.
Right. And so then
you
have all the A's together and the group and all the
Correct.
B's. Yeah. Because otherwise it is a lot to do. And I even had some kids on the honors that I had to get them on the right track. So, and I even gave them examples, but it just took a little bit.
Well, and that would allow that TJ could be the expert in A, and you could be the expert in B, and you almost could parallel teach, so that way you're helping find evidence in the first 50 pages, he's helping find evidence in the last 50 pages. Otherwise, you both will lose your mind because you're going to have to help them find evidence across the whole chapters.
Right. Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay.
That sounds good. Yeah, so that'll work.
And so then
finishing that up, and then we wanted, we have our questions. We have some unanswered questions, and so we had the kids come up with questions that they still had about the book. And so as we finish a chapter, they're writing their answers on the big Post-it notes, as they find them. But when we have some that are still unanswered, then we thought we would go ahead and write a letter to the author
Okay.
as their writing assignment. So, and maybe do I don't know, a partner letter.
Yeah, we were thinking maybe like small groups.
Small group, because we didn't want to send them too many letters, because then it's, a lot. But so we thought we would do something with that.
That's great. That's great. And then when this book's done, where are you going next?
Well, I wanted to do one more thing with this book, too. I have an article from Time Magazine that I found somewhere, probably Teachers Pay Teachers. And anyway, and it's about, do we make our kids, are we limiting their free playtime by getting them involved in so many sports and activities from age 2? And so I thought that would be good, especially with all the Common Core testing, to read that and then to write something so then that we have that layer, and so they can write about the book a little bit and write about that article. And so I can give them a format for that and give them an example, and so that they can cite support from the text, that article as well. So.
Do you have enough technology for them all to do both of these next 2 activities with technology, since the park is going to ask them to use technology?
Yeah, I have laptops.
All right, so I would force everyone. I wouldn't let anybody do it paper pencil.
Okay.
And then I would do a couple of other things there. I would review what all kids are allowed, TJ, on the park, and I would make sure they're using those accommodations when you do these last 2 activities. So it's a final assessment not only of their learning, but are they really ready for what the park is going to ask them to do? So if they get a scribe or they get voice to text, do they get text editor turned on? What do your kids get? And making sure that they have that information. And then Jen, go ahead. You had something to add.
I figured that was a good way to do it. So what you might want to do, going along with what we had talked about last week with using the voice to text piece, especially for your student, your English language, who has English language issues, what you might want to do is see if you can get my name is blanking on the name of the software. I knew it a second ago. But there is software that they can do the voice to text, and it will go right into Microsoft Word. And then, the Dragon
Dictate.
Yeah, Dragon. And then they can go ahead and edit from there. They edit their own work that comes out on the paper. So you might want to look into that especially for that student, if not for other students with disabilities who might need something.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think now's the time, TJ, for you not just to assess, but to assess if kids can do it with the accommodations they have. Because, again, you might find that, wow, these kids are doing really well, but you put them in front of a keyboard and they can't type and they can't read the print and it's not enlarged enough and they don't know how to, those are the things right now that I think you want to do, not to game the system, but to get clarity on, are they really meeting the standards that you're going to need them to do at the end. Make sense?
That sounds good.
All right. I know we only have a couple of minutes left. Let me give you 3 homework ideas, I guess, since we're not going to meet every other week. One is that, Lisa, you've ended the quarter and you're moving into the next part, correct? So I would love to see you guys do 2 things. One, and I can send you this form, I would love to see you do a curriculum snapshot of where are you guys going the next 9 weeks that maybe you would send back to Jen and I so that we could use that for our coaching. And then, TJ, I would like for you to look at that curriculum snapshot and list what types of co-teaching you think best serve that big ideal from your perspective each week. Not because Lisa wouldn't have any say in that, but it would give you, Lisa, kind of a thought that, hey, he's thinking station here. Well, how many days a week do we? So that when we're coaching you this every other week or whatever we decide, then we can kind of look at it and say, well, you've already told us the big idea. You've already told us the type of co-teaching. Does that change? Is there any differences there? And we can dive even deeper into techniques and strategies for kids. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay, so I'll send you that. The other one, I would be remiss to tell you, if I didn't tell you, the thing that I'm finding really hard for kids with disabilities, specifically my own, in college is the grading for MLA. And it's not something I've given a lot of thought about until I'm experiencing it personally, is that's just a constant struggle for kids with organizational things. So again, just because that seems to be a game changer for him, It's one that I just thought I would mention to you guys to be thinking about. What is MLA? Are you using it? Are the kids really using Fidelity? When they're using word processing, do they understand how to set up the margins? Now we've now set up an MLA template for him so that everything he starts. Those are just food for thought that I thought were college readiness kinds of things. And then the last one, I just got the coolest website. I was like, I have to tell them. It's called GoNoodle.com. And GoNoodle.com is from a hospital that actually focuses on neurological needs, and it's all brain breaks. And it's some of the coolest brain breaks I've seen related to music and different kinds of things. So I was like, I'd be remiss if I didn't tell you that specific side. Things you guys want us to think about or worry about before we get back with you in 2 weeks. You're welcome to give us homework too. Things you want to know or think about for the last 9 weeks.
Well, we had talked short stories. Yeah, we were going to go into short stories, and we're going to have to, I have my list of short stories from honors, and so I'm going to have to go back and kind of decide, well, which ones would be a good hook, which ones not. So we need to go through and figure that out. But, just on the short stories, how many should we give before we test and assess on that? That would be good, because I kind of know from what I've done in honors, but usually we'll go 5 or 6, but maybe that's too many. I don't know.
Yeah, I wouldn't dare not test and assess every short story with this group in a formative way. You can certainly give a summative after 3. I would say 3 is probably the maximum, and even better, if you're really going to ground it in the Common Core, I would really work hard to force them into comparing 2.
Okay.
Because really, you've got to give evidence between the 2 stories. And when you get into 3 and 4, kids with disabilities will leave one out. They'll pick 2. Not that gifted kids won't, but specifically kids with disabilities. So I'm thinking, yeah, if you do one some kind of easy Socrates, we've got data quickly, and then after 2, do something, I think you'll have a better outcome for deeper learning. And then I don't think there's anything wrong with summative being them expressing, and I would do an exhibition. You've got 5, now prove to me you know all 5 stories.
Okay,
sure, yeah.
That's my quick thinking in that one. But I do think after 2, you'll be losing them if you do anything less than that.
Well, so our homework, and then we're going to show Much Ado About Nothing, the Shakespeare, and I've got a little comic. It's a wiener dog comic that basically tells the story, and then we're going to watch it. But just maybe you guys can think of what we should do, because we want to expose them to that. They'll listen to that, and then to Hamlet at the end of the year. And so if you think of any activities we should do, and maybe we should read a little bit of it out loud too, because I have all the books. So
okay. We'll do some homework on short story accommodations if we can find any, because again, that gets into the struggle. It's what they're going to do on the state test. It's going to be short to the point. Yet they're usually deeper, harder kinds of stories without a very good plot setting, character kinds of, not as developed because they're short stories. I also think if I were you guys, just a quick tip, I would probably start with Harris and Bergeron.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good.
I think it sets the stage for the kids in your class to think about their differences. That might be a great way to start that 9 weeks with short stories, is what are the differences you need these next, and make them set a goal related to what would they need to balance out their strength. What would they be if they lived at that time in that society? What would they have to, would they have to have a bag over their head? Would they have to have, weights because they're good at jumping? And what would they want in the opposite to level the playing field for them to be equal to everybody else that's hard for them?
Yeah, that sounds good.
But that's, yeah, and that one I wouldn't assess. I would just assess it by asking them to do those 2 things. Yeah.
All right. Well,
okay.
Have a good
All right.
day.
Thank you, and we will be back in touch in 2 weeks. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye.